Okay, welcome back to the Music Maestro Podcast, the behind the scenes of the music industry. We're here to uncover the stories, strategies and insights shaping this ever-evolving business. This week, I'm delighted to finally sit down with James Sutcliffe, CEO and President of the Circuit Group UK. From forging groundbreaking partnerships with icons like Stormzy and Dua Lipa to leading strategies for global brands like Monster Energy and Ministry of Sound, James has been at the forefront of innovation in music and live events. In this episode, we're going to deep dive into James's vision for empowering artists, the evolution of audience engagement, and how the Circuit Group is transforming music management on a global scale. Please welcome James Sutcliffe. Here he is.
Hey.
I'm so pumped for this because based on the conversation we've just had down the pub, the Circuit Group, I've actually got their mission statement here, which I'm going to read. The Circuit Group's mission is to help artists have greater ownership and control over their intellectual property, utilizing innovative technology, fulfilling their commitment to transparency and crafting unique and meaningful fan engagement connections. Circuit will lead the way in creating a more equitable future for artists.
Wordier.
There was also a typo there. I took that straight from Dean Wilson's LinkedIn, so you can blame him for that.
We've made that punchier.
Have you? What is it now?
I
couldn't tell you.
No, I've been in the pub. No, it's a variation on the theme, but it's what it says is very much that's what we're about.
Okay, well, the reason why I'm really excited is because before you arrived today, I didn't really know what the Circuit Group is. I thought I did. I said to you, something to do with artist management. And whilst it is that, it's a whole lot more than that. And I like it because, to be honest, the Circuit Group sounds like exactly what the music industry needs today, right? So we'll get into that in a lot more detail. But one of the things I noticed when I was looking into your career, or I should say education, is we did the same degree at the same university, but you finished the year before I started. I say same degree. Yours was music industry management and marketing business studies and economics, contract law. I just kept it simple. That was music industry management. Why? How did you get into that course? Why did you choose that course? Because when I chose it, it was like one of a kind.
It was that was really it. I grew up in a rural seaside town, and I didn't want to do the whole. You go to school, you go to college, you get a trade. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of my best friends are builders, plumbers. Music was always my thing.
Yeah.
Always.
Okay.
I didn't know how I was going to get out of that place. Like
this actual place, called
Lowestoft.
Okay,
in Suffolk, right? It's in the middle of nowhere. You can't drive through it. It's on the coast.
Okay.
So you're there for a reason. But it feels a million miles away from anywhere. Didn't know anyone in the music business, but music was such a passion of mine, and similar to you, like at that time, there weren't any other courses.
Yeah,
that was the only thing. Now, when I realised early that becoming a rock star was probably not going to be the way I was going to get into the music business.
So was originally...
I was in bands and...
Okay.
And so, I loved the thought of that, but that's...
So did you entertain it, like the thought of that? Did you say you're in bands?
Yeah.
Was there a point where you thought, I'm going to become a rock star?
Never really. Like 14 and 15 when you're in a band with some mates in a garage and you're dreaming but no, reality was, look, I want to be in music by hook or by crook. How am I going to do it? And funny thing as well, and I've not told anyone this, but I was such a massive, and still am to this day, Oasis fan, like super fan. Noel Gallagher lived in Chalfont St Giles at a period, right?
Yeah.
And one of the campuses from Buckinghamshire Chiltern Uni was in Chalfont.
Yeah.
And there was this bit of me that was thinking, if I go there, I might be able to meet him.
Join the band.
Yeah. Turns out that the Chalfont campus is where all the nursing courses were done. And we were in High Wycombe.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Quality.
But no, really, it was, there was that was the only thing. And marketing and creativity and, that was always, something I was good at. I did business studies and media studies and whatnot at A-level. And that side of things was always really, and the artistic side of things was always kind of in me. And then when I saw that course, I was like, music business, music industry management. Yeah, I wanted to see what I could tag onto that, because I thought if I don't get into the music business, I've still got transferable skills in what I've learned at uni, where I can then go and go into a different business using the marketing or the business stuff, Yeah,
well, I think one of the things I actually learned about you in the last hour is transferable skills is very much a thing I think applies to you across your music industry career, because you've dotted about a number of places, but not actually, people get a job as a marketing intern and then a junior marketing manager and then marketing manager, senior marketing, head of marketing, director of marketing. But you've not done that.
No.
You've really kind of got quite a broad array of skills, which we'll get into. But I've got a kind of I've just been looking at you there. First off, can we just make sure he's on shot, right? Clearly in shot. Yeah. That's great. Canelo Alvarez. I have to say it, right? You must get that so much.
Loads.
Yeah.
When I went on holiday twice to Mexico.
Right.
Now, bearing in mind, I was in an all-inclusive, so I don't have to pay technically for the drinks anyway.
Yeah.
But I was
buying your drinks.
I was where they give like the American tourists the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
The watered down stuff. They would go under the bar and get me the proper label stuff. Right.
Is that because they thought you were, or they thought you just were amazing lookalike?
There was one guy who generally didn't believe
that you weren't.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not speaking Spanish. He goes to me, hola español, I went poquito, and he was like, then he thought I was.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I get it a lot.
Yeah.
And Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, see that one. But Canelo Alvarez, much more. I mean, it's a dead ringer.
I'm not a name dropper in any way, shape, or form, but I went out with Eddie Hearn.
No way.
Once, and when I first got introduced to him, he went, "Fuck me."
And I was like, if he's saying it,
yeah. And I was like, if you need a body double at any point, just call me up.
Okay. Wow. So I just had to get that in at some point. It was only, like I said, just off the cuff. But so your career then, like we were saying, it's really diverse. And whilst there was, coming out of uni in, what was that, 2004, you had a few initial jobs, but I want to kind of stick to the music side of things.
Yeah, sure.
Your first intro into the music industry, I'd say, is at Music Sales Group, then into Ministry of Sound, then we go Monster Energy, Live Now, Pixel Link 720, and now the Circuit Group. Let's start with the Music Sales Group and work our way up.
Yeah, so Music Sales is now Wise Music Group.
Oh, wow, okay.
So
yeah.
I, again, at the time, living out in Suffolk, I'd done other jobs here and there, and I was like, I've got to get in. I need to get in.
Yeah.
Music Sales had a depot. They own like a big chain of music shops called Music Room. I think it might have... The bricks and mortar stores might have gone now and it's all online. But at the time, they had a big bunch of stores all around the country, and their warehouse was in Bury St Edmunds, which is about an hour and a half drive from where I lived. I got the role as sort of marketing director, and then from there, literally, I was there 6 months, and they wanted to relocate me to London. Right. Because they were like, we want to bring you into, not just working on Music Room and doing digital marketing and whatnot. We want to bring you into the publishing side of the business as well.
Yeah.
So myself and my young family relocated down to London, and then sort of started to work across the the rest of the business as well. And so that started to give me a really good grounding in terms of what music publishing is, what rights are, what music catalogues are. At the time, those guys were acquiring catalogues as well. And that was a really great sort of grounding and an introduction into the music business. So
okay. And so, well, then next up, obviously, Ministry, which is where we met. I can't believe it says he did is it? Well, actually, it's just over a year.
Yeah.
It's a year and a half, basically, right? Is that about right?
Might have been a bit longer. The time, that's off my LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, that is off your LinkedIn. It always is. Yeah.
I don't know whether the dates are right in there, but
so you
a couple of years. I mean, it was,
and here you came in as tours and events, department, which again is like what we were talking about earlier is different to what you're doing at Music Sales Group.
So this is where I guess, as time has gone on, I sat on a panel at ADE and somebody asked about how to become successful in the music business, and I've hustled.
Evidently,
all the way through.
Yeah.
People would say blag, but blagging is, you're pulling the wool over people's eyes, right?
Yeah.
But I've always been good at kind of selling myself. And I, through a mutual friend, somebody, told me that that Ministry was looking for someone to go in and join the tours department. And I'd always gone to raves and been in the clubs, and that was a big passion of mine. I'd been around enough dance music events and enough people in that scene to kind of get a feel for, like, I knew my shit when it came to the music, and I knew what a great party looked like or felt like, because I'd been to so many of them. I'd been to Ibiza and Ayia Napa and all of these places, and I kind of was like, I could do that, because ultimately the way I looked at it was, it's marketing. It's a product, right? Those tour brands were products, and they need to be looked at in that way. How do you talk to the target audience of this particular brand, this particular product? And I went in and, the notorious Ministry of Sound interview process. And
is this Hector?
Hector.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
God bless him. And Lohan. I basically convinced them that I could do this job, despite the fact that I hadn't got any. Yeah,
I was about to say
experience.
And I'm not going to use the term "pull the wool over their eyes," but you're trying to get a job in a company that's notorious for being ruthless when it comes to their interview process, and you've not got any prior experience.
No, I think at that point I was 26, 27. I was a senior member of a family-run music publishing company. And I was really confident in my own ability. Misguided at a point. I learned massively at Ministry of Sound that I wasn't as good as I thought I was. But that attitude and the fact that I believed in myself that badly, and I actually said to them, give me the chance, and it's mine to mess up, and if it doesn't work, you can get rid of me. And I put it on myself. And they kind of went, all right.
Fair.
Have a go. And I wasn't in that role long before I then got made head of the department. And then joined the senior leadership team there. So, again, it was, I've always felt, and it's not arrogance, it's like, it's a self-belief that I can, if you put your mind to it, as cliched as it is, you can do it.
I mean, listen, I think there's a lot to be said for confidence used in the right way. Right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people that confidence, arrogance, that kind of thing. But it's powerful if you can use confidence as a tool to further your career.
It does, and look, it doesn't always work.
No,
it's not everything is a success, and that was a tough period of time at Ministry from a tours perspective, because it was kind of on the wane a little, and I was trying to revive something that was kind of almost, on its deathbed. And so the model, it was around that time that the switch to hard ticket shows was really starting to really become prominent, and the branded event space wasn't as popular. Obviously now you see the likes of Defected with amazing job with what they do.
Incredible.
With Glitterbox and Defected, and they've got that mix of brand led shows, but also hard ticket plays, and again, everything's cyclical in the music business. But at that time, I did a couple of years there, and towards the end of that time, I was approached by Monster Energy through a headhunter, and to join them as head of music, and I kind of I jumped I jumped at it.
Understandably, I mean, Monster Energy is obviously a huge brand. When it comes to energy drinks, I mean, the first one that always comes to mind is Red Bull.
Yep.
Is Monster Energy number 2?
Yeah, I mean, the Monster. I mean, Red Bull had a 20-year head start on Monster, and in many markets, certainly in the 5 years that I was there, it's overtaken Red Bull in many markets. Right. Red Bull globally was still number 1, Monster number 2. I don't know how close that gap is now. I haven't been there for a few years, but at the time they were they just acquired Coca-Cola's energy portfolio. So
right.
There was a whole load of new energy brands that Coke had basically set up to rival Monster. Mm-hmm. Monster then acquired them, and they wanted to reposition these brands into new spaces. Yep. So historically it had been action sports, motorsports, rock music, the same target audience that Monster was aiming at.
Yeah.
They wanted to reposition them in dance music, street culture, and things like that. And so that was where I came in, because they wanted somebody who had been prominently in the electronic music space, had brand experience, and went in and sort of took over the running of the music strategy for those brands.
Okay, so we do like nearly a 2-year stint here, it seems.
I was there 4 and a bit years.
Okay, you've got the dates wrong again on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay,
I need to change that.
4 years. Okay, 4 years. That's a hell of a stint, really.
Yeah.
Then we get to, I never know how to pronounce it. Live Now.
Yeah. So the story now, and this is where you look at somebody's CV and you think that dotted around a bit. This is pandemic time.
I see.
So pandemic hit. My role at Monster was being on an aeroplane,
right,
and flying around to festivals, doing ambassador deals with artists, out at clubs and events, and then the world shut down, and twiddling my thumbs. And I'd done a good stint there, and also Monster's strategy was starting to, they were trying to diversify where they were spending money. They'd start putting into football and other places, and I could just see down the line, like, if the COVID ends and they realise that they've saved all this money sponsoring all these festivals, they may never go back into doing it.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had joined Live Now from Live Nation, and they were looking for a CMO, and it was a startup founded by Andrea Radrizzani, who owned Leeds United at the time.
Wow.
Now owns Sampdoria.
Yeah.
He had a big media business, but he wanted to set up a live streaming business, and it was literally right place, right time. It was the pandemic. No one can go to shows. We're going to deliver really high-end, really high-budget shows and ticket them.
Yeah.
And we had some great success. We won a Music Week award for Best Music Innovation. Mm-hmm. We did live streams with Dua, with the Gorillaz, with SZA, Lizzo, Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
Did that in front of the pyramids at Giza. When things started to open back up.
Yeah.
But that was me going and kind of going, right, well, there was a foot in both spaces. I could still be in events, but now I'm kind of learning about digital distribution and digital ticket sales and different ways of speaking to an audience in different ways and selling a product in a different way. As the world started to open back up, it became harder and harder to sell tickets to those shows.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to sink, and I need to get off it before it does.
Okay.
And this is where Pixel Links comes in.
So what is Pixel Links?
So Pixel Links was a company founded by a good friend of mine, Inda Full, co-founded with Dean Wilson.
Okay.
Ben Turner,
yeah,
Deadmau5, and Richie Hawtin.
Right. Okay.
This is where Dean and I's journey starts.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I knew Ben. Ben was the guy that got me in. In fact, I'd brought him to a meeting with my then boss Andrea, and wasn't the greatest of meetings. And he said, "You're better than this.
Right. Okay.
I've got something, and give me a couple of weeks." And then they offered me the role to go in as global head of partnerships, and that was so Pixelinks, which has evolved in the last couple of years. Essentially, it's a Web3 music platform.
Right.
There was, at the time then, there was a gaming element to it. So there was a game that was being developed, which is along the lines of Pokemon Go. But it was all focused around music artists.
Yeah.
So my role there was going and speaking to the major labels, to artists, to artist managers, and kind of saying, look, this Web3 thing, this NFT thing is, booming. It's a new incremental revenue stream and a really innovative way for you to make connections with your fans in a more direct way. And also from an earnings perspective, because the blockchain is so transparent, the kind of ownership is much clearer, and also you get paid immediately. There's no archaic systems, and so that then kind of evolved, and we bought an AI music lab out of Berlin, who were building this incredible AI music generator where you could basically take the stems from songs and put it in there, and it would make infinite numbers of remixes in different genres. We sold, I was there, was part of the time when we sold the company to a big Web3 company called Animoca, and Dean and I had obviously met at this point and hit it off, and then once the acquisition with Animoca kind of happened, he said, look, I'm doing this thing called the Circuit Group, why don't you come and join me? And I joined 720, which is now part of the Circuit Group. So those last two are just one job, really.
Right. Okay. I see.
And help him build that, and that brings us up to present
day. I mean, okay. And so Dean Wilson, you've mentioned him a couple of times there. I obviously know Dean because of 360. He was the founder of 360, right?
Yeah, founded it in his shed in his garden.
360. Yeah. Then at some point he launched a company called 720.
720, yeah.
720.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we eventually get to the Circuit Group.
Yeah.
And so now, when did the Circuit Group launched in September 2023? Is that right?
Yeah, around then. Yep.
When, like I said earlier, when I spoke to you, I was like, so the Circuit Group, an artist management company. And it's not, is it? It's like so much more than that. And actually, what the Circuit Group sounds like it's offering is really exciting. It's doing things differently, and it's massively disruptive. What is the Circuit Group?
Okay. So I'll talk about the genesis of the Circuit Group, right? So we brought together 720, which was the company that I was working at with Dean, and another management company called IETA, founded by our now co-founders of Circuit Group, Brett Fisher, Harvey Tadman and David Gray. We brought those two companies together under the umbrella of the Circuit Group with a vision to essentially build an IP-centric, artist-first, full 360 music business. So artist management, if you think of it in a flywheel, we have IP at the center. We can talk about what that means in a bit.
Yeah, we will.
So we have IP at the center, and around the circle is a number of services that all add value and build value into the IP. So artist management is one, record labels, publishing companies, event brands, merch brands, technology, and label services.
Yeah.
So where we kind of put our heads together and all thinking in the same way, that the artist manager and artist management is a tough business in terms of you don't own anything as an artist manager. you can help an artist from zero to a global superstar and dedicate your life to doing that, and they can then walk away. You might get a sunset where you're paid, a certain percentage, which then decreases over time until that runs out. But essentially, just look at Chapel Rowan, what's just happened recently, right?
Yeah.
Manager that took her to $100 million plus business, $100 million business, and is now been given the boot.
Yeah.
And, the artist manager or the artist management contract is, whilst it's a contract, it's notoriously hard to uphold. If an artist wants to leave, you're not going to sue them.
Yeah.
That's a death sentence for an artist manager to sue their artist, because word gets around and no one else is going to want to work with you if you're willingly going to sue an artist. They want to leave, they leave, right? And after, I guess, many years of those guys all kind of having bad experiences and good experiences, but a lot of bad ones, and kind of going, this model is fucked. Can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We get paid a commission for the work that we do, and the only way that we make money is by signing the big deals.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that in a bit as well. But ultimately the model is messed up, and Dean had this vision of wanting to do things in a different way, which is, why don't we flip this and become business partners with our artists? Now, of course, at the Circuit Group, we've got across the US and the UK, 60 plus artists on our roster, and some of them are, development acts. Some of them are 20-year-old kids who aren't at the point in their career or their lives where there's enough there to build a business with them at that point. But at the top end, our frontline big artists, we're in business with them. We co-own companies with them, co-own record labels, co-own publishing companies, co-own event brands, all with the emphasis on, we don't work for you. You're not our client, you're our business partner.
Yeah.
And everybody is incentivized to grow that business and make the long-term decisions that are right for the long term of the business, and not what makes immediate cash right now.
Yeah, totally.
Which, when you're in a commission-based model, if somebody offers you a 6-figure record deal and you're broke, and what comes with those checks is giving away rights, giving away control, giving away margin at every point. What we wanted to do was build an ecosystem that means that if an artist wants to be independent, they absolutely fully can be within the Circuit Group ecosystem.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to touch on quickly before we get into IP.
Yeah.
Which artists have you got on your roster?
Okay, so we have Fisher, Chris Lake, Deadmau5, Clooney, Sosa, Camden Cox, Fat Tony, Sammy Vergie, K Motions, Oppidan. That's just to name a few, and
etc.
I apologise to any of our artists that I didn't mention there, because I love you all, but there's a lot of them across LA and London.
Okay, so then with IP, I always think IP is such a, I don't know, it's like, I want to let's explain IP in layman's terms. Particularly when we're talking about music. So I guess there's two things. What is IP when it comes to music, and why do you believe the ownership of that is critical to the artist's success today?
Well, IP stands for intellectual property.
Yeah.
Right? So in music terms, you have two sides to intellectual property, which is master recording rights and publishing rights. And outside of music rights, because again, IP is it's broader than people think. They just think about music rights. It's your name, likeness, and image.
Yeah.
What your logo, your face. Like if you've got a mouse head, that's your name, image, and likeness. Then you've got data. That's IP. Not in the same way, but we bracket that in. Then you've got event brands. You've got merch, all of these things that are kind of ancillary, anything that kind of makes up anything creative that is in you as part of your artist's ecosystem. Merch is that someone's designing them, someone's signing it off. It's got the artist's logo and their image and likeness, and the artist a lot of the time will now be designing. Event brands, that could be anything from just club nights to festivals. We've built IP, live event IP with our artists as well, and anything that with regards to IP. Historically, there's been third parties that have controlled that ecosystem,
right,
for IP. So
explain.
Record labels, publishing companies, event promoters. So you've got Universal Music, you've got Sony ATV Publishing, you've got Live Nation, you've got all of these big players that essentially were or as people thought, and some people still think, they are the channels that you need to go through to be able to talk to your audience or get your product or your music out to a fan base. And the reverse is actually the truth.
So, I mean, what you're talking about then with the circuit group is I think one of the questions I asked you at the pub was, like, who are your competitors? But from what I can tell, your competitors are all of those people you just mentioned, because the circuit group is actually offering all of these services. You said it before, like a 360 music company. What is that? What we're saying?
I mean, we.
But actually, 360. A lot of people say throw 360 about. But you're doing everything.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. I mean, we don't. I mean, and again, this isn't arrogance, but we don't really ever look in terms of we've got competitors, because we like to think that what our approach and how we're trying to build this and where we're going to go moving forward, we are building a new music business. The old music business, in our opinion, and of course it is an opinion, is broken. And it can't be fixed. And it's not our job to fix it. But what we are doing and what we can do is build something new that does work and puts the artist at the centre of it, because ultimately, without them, none of those people over there have a job. And I think that's been forgotten. You've got tech billionaires who make more money off people's music than the artist does. So there's for us, it's competition, yes, comes in many forms, because like you said, we are working on, when you look around the flywheel, we've got a foot in a lot of areas now, but we're not trying to compete.
Right. Okay, so with your artists, how are you helping these artists navigate this music industry? You've touched on some of those things, but let's delve a little bit deeper into that.
I think when you have a relationship, and look, a lot of the artists that we manage and those big names that we talked about earlier, we've been with them since the start of their career. We didn't inherit global stars, we built them. And when you've been with an artist-manager relationship that is built over 15, 20, 25 years, obviously that becomes, friendship and family kind of vibes. But we also have a lot of artists that are new and, we've been working with them 6 months or whatnot. But to answer the question, when you start thinking about your relationship with an artist as partners, and then transparency becomes key. If we co-own a business together, we're both shareholders of it. We're the articles of association and all of the boring stuff, right? There's shareholders agreement. There's roles and responsibilities, accounting. Everyone knows and can see everything. We have a business manager involved that will obviously help with the financial side of things as well. But when you start having more transparent, open conversations with your artist, because there are scare stories out there. We don't need to get into them, but there are a lot of bad people out there in the business, and even up to today, artists are being ripped off, dodgy deals, rights being signed away behind artists' backs. All of these sorts of things. We sit down with our artists and we kind of, talk them through what everything means as well. Like there's an education piece to this as well. So you've got an artist who's 20, 21 years old. Now they might not be thinking about retiring. What happened? I didn't when I was 21. You weren't thinking about what happens when I'm 40 and when I want to start slowing down. I'm just getting going. Give it to me now. But if you're able to speak to them in a way that allows them to see what the results of certain decisions will make down the line, that's how you start the ball rolling with that. And then it gets to a point when an artist does become 30, 40, has kids, starts to think about what comes next after my touring career ends. You've built something that has an actual value that they can sell or they can pass down to their kids. And, so it's really, answer the question, I guess, open transparency and communication from the start, will ultimately help you guide them through everything that is going to come at them. Okay, so when your business partners in these the kind of, I don't know what it is, the business of building an artist brand, or not even beyond just an artist brand, there's so much more to it, I guess, the IP. You've got this thing of creative versus commercial, and I always think, and maybe in your instance, the Circuit Group's instance, it's different, but there's this artist that focuses on the creative, and I guess predominantly there's always been the label, the business there, the company has dealt with the commercial. How does the Circuit Group balance the creative wants with the commercial needs? Because we're in it together, right, and our relationship with that artist is one of, you have a fiduciary duty to an artist, you have a duty of care to the artist, you want the best for them. Again, there are bad examples out there, but I'm talking about how we approach this. Ultimately, what we say to everybody, and it's true, is we're in the music business. The music is the first word in that sentence, right? Music is the ultimate, most important thing. Good music will always find a way. And you'll be surprised, artists are, yes, they're artists and they're very creative, and their art is, that's the essence of who they are, but they're money orientated as well, right?
Yeah, totally.
Now, because we aren't an external third party who is only focusing on, don't tell me that Universal Music really care about the music. Really, like, again, my opinion.
Disclaimer.
And of course, that's a broad brushstroke generalisation. I know people there, and I know that people who do really care about the music. But as a business with shareholders, exactly. A listed company, they only care about the money.
At the end of the day.
Right? Now, the decisions and the conversations and the negotiations with that transaction isn't about what is best for the music and the artist. It's about what makes the most money. With what we're doing, it's like you do the right things, and you focus on the creativity. You focus on making incredible music, and a lot of it. And the money comes, but we're not forced into making stupid decisions, to make knee-jerk reactions, to sell, to sign big checks, because we're building something for the long term together. If you do those things right, the money comes naturally. That's I think that's a big difference.
So I think when I look at like creative and commercial, I think that the thing for me, not always, but that I want to touch on with you, that sits in the middle. You were talking about Ministry earlier, where you came in and they had these brands, a product essentially that you needed to market. Now, I'm not suggesting that an artist is a product, but the same principle applies in that marketing is at the center of everything, really.
Everything's marketing.
And so what I want to ask you is, in today's world, in today's music industry, what does marketing look like? I assume that's one of the big things that you bring to the party as the circuit group, is that expertise amongst all the other expertise that you have as well. What is marketing in today's music industry?
I mean, look, I think everyone will jump straight to the obvious answer that social media is really kind of at the center of most marketing strategies and plans, and in particular TikTok, which is arguably the most important marketing tool for a music artist today.
Yeah. You still believe that? I'm not opposing it. I'm just
I at the minute, as we sit here now, I believe that.
Yeah.
It's not the only thing, but I think the prominence of it is not to be understated. It has positives and negatives as a result. Things can blow up very quickly, but then those trends can disappear just as quick.
Yeah.
And so what it does to the music culture and the scene in terms of genres and sounds, we've seen cycles that used to last a few years,
moving a lot quicker.
Yeah. Marketing really, I think, we what we've done very well, and when you look at Deadmau5 as an example, and how the team have built a core fan base that is very, very I can't think of the right word to express they're so passionate.
Yeah.
They are super fans, right? There aren't many casual Deadmau5 fans.
Yeah.
They're called the Horde, and they are so passionate, and they buy into everything that he does and follow him anywhere, and and it's incredible. But that's because a really strong brand has been created. The product, i.e. the music, is undeniable. He's a genius from a music perspective. You add the character and the brand, and then the ancillary stuff around it in terms of merch and pop-up events. Then they did an amazing Web3 campaign with Mousehead NFTs, and there's the ecosystem and the lore around that artist has driven into that. Going to the super fan, that for me is from an artist perspective, and you don't have to be a global superstar to have a super fan network.
Yeah.
In fact, you look at artists that have got 30 million followers on Instagram versus an artist who's got 10,000, and the engagement and interactions on the 10,000 fans there is way higher than over here, because you might not follow that person for their music over here.
Yeah.
It might be what they look like. It might be, the clothing brand, or there's a whole bunch of other things that kind of make up that 30 million audience. But if you've got a dedicated small fan base who are essentially make up 80% of your revenue, they're probably 1 or 2% of your total fan base is the super fan, and you focus in on overserving the super fan in terms of exclusive content, exclusive access. We've built a platform within the circuit group called Amped. It's a subscription-based model similar to a Patreon.
Yeah, okay.
There's different tiers of subscription. Take the Deadmau5 one as an example. We've filmed everything Joel has ever done from a touring perspective for years, and so there are hours or days worth of footage in what we've called Mousetrap TV, which is a different subscription point to just the basic entry. And then there's the radio show, then there's exclusive merch, and there's and this goes just direct to fan. There's no third parties in the way. We collect all our own data, so you can then market to people, which goes back to my earlier point of within your IP ecosystem, data is super important, because if you are going through a third party ticketing platform and you want to then go and sell to those people, email those people, you can't, because the ticketing company, who's owned by the promoter, owns the rights to that data.
Yeah.
If you keep that yourself, there's artists selling out venues in London, Village Underground, 750 tickets, without management at the minute, and only have got a super fan base, and they're just direct to consumer. And that, for me, just shows the power of direct marketing. It's completely different now to where it was before. Yeah. That's for sure. I think the barrier to entry is a lot lower. The different channels that you have are much broader. And then it comes down to how hard you want it, how much research and work you're willing to put in to understand how these platforms work, how the algorithms work, and then creating content that is going to cut through. Of course, ultimately the music has to be amazing, but you've the tools are there for independent artists to speak to an audience directly.
Yeah, totally. When you talk about independent artists, what are the most important steps an artist can take to build a sustainable career?
Now, again, talking, I guess, through our lens of what we do and how we think.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you're a new artist, fresh artist right now, and you're starting to get a bit of traction, and you might have just signed with a management company, and understanding the value of your IP, and understanding the value of creating a business that you are the CEO of your own business, and understanding that there are repercussions further down the line if you don't strategize and think far enough ahead for making certain decisions with regards to signing certain deals or kind of giving away rights and access. I think so many artists, and rightly so, they're artists. They're so focused on their art that all of this is just noise, and I can't think about it. But if anybody is suggesting that you go and do a record deal over here that is going to give your rights away in perpetuity or for 25 years for a few grand, then I just don't I don't know. And of course, we have artists that will sign deals, but we now negotiate those deals in a very different way. They're short-term licenses. They're not, we're not giving these rights away forever. They're short-term. Don't give us in advance, put it into marketing. It sometimes you have to do a deal with a major for the positioning, for the look, for at that moment, early moment in an artist's career, you have to. And I know I sound like I'm now going against everything I've just said. But sometimes you do. But you don't have to sign a shitty deal. So I think for me, the advice to an artist is to not see pound or dollar signs and think of this as a route to get rich. Ultimately, what that's going to mean is everybody else gets rich other than you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to, I want to touch on technology. You've mentioned Web3 a couple of times.
Yep.
With these innovations, AI, Web3, NFTs, blockchain, blah, 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 what role do you think these technologies are going to play in artists' careers?
I think it's changed now from when we started Pixel Links and during that big NFT boom, where crypto bros were running around driving Bugattis and selling pictures of apes. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people pissed in the swimming pool, to coin a term, at that point. The NFT thing has kind of, disappeared and is almost kind of a joke and a parody for a lot of people. And now a lot of people a lot of artists certainly don't trust it. And I'm not going to put my fans through that or expose myself to a scheme that might end up being, you know, a Ponzi scheme or whatever, because there was a lot of them, pump and dump schemes. But I think at the base of it, and this is when you think back to the birth of the internet, the first time when the dot-com bubble happened, what happens in those instances is, and that was a fad to everybody. Yeah. The internet was a fad. It'll never take off, you know. And again, everyone piled in and got rich, and then the bubble burst. But what happens is the builders carry on building. The people who truly understand and see the vision of where that technology is going to go, they carry on. And all of the speculators who have gone in to get rich quick, and this is what happened with Web3 and NFTs, exactly the same thing happened. Yeah. They've all disappeared, and those people who were steadfast in it carry on doing it. And where we're at now, I think, what I hope, because I know and have seen the power of blockchain in terms of transparency of ownership, that changes everything. Yeah. In terms of rights management, it changes everything from a possible legal dispute over who owns what. Yeah, yeah. But it also, more importantly, it allows the artists to speak directly to their fans and be paid instantly, or as close to instantly. We've done a few projects before, you know. We've launched digital download, or digital versions of albums that come with a physical. But the digital version is essentially an NFT. We didn't call it that. It's a digital token. Yeah, sits on the blockchain. You can still play it on your computer and whatnot. But the guys who we worked with called us up and was like, "Where do you want the money transferred to?" It's like 20 minutes after the thing closed because we'd sold it out. Yeah, yeah. There's no waiting a year to be accounted to and be accounted to incorrectly, and you know, all of these things. It's literally transparent. So, you know, I can't. If you'd have asked me this, you know, a couple of years ago, I'd have said, "Well, this is it. This is the new." When iTunes hit, this is just as important. Yeah, and that's where it's going to go. Yeah, yeah. And then it's kind of, you know, gone off the path a little bit. But what I hope and what comes back is another platform, an antidote to Spotify, will come out of Web3, I believe. Okay. On the blockchain.
Let's switch it up a little bit. How long have we been going? Do you reckon about an hour? I'm thinking an hour and 10. Yeah. All right. So we've got, okay. I've got one question I want to ask before I get to my final question. All right. And that, get a little bit, lighten it up a little bit, get a bit heavy with the technology chat. Favourite campaign. I always like to talk to people about this. Yep. And yours is a really interesting one. Fisher and Flowdan, a recent release for you guys.
Yeah, it's a couple of months back. A few months back.
Let's talk about this one.
Yeah, I mean, as the Circuit Group had been, you know, through LinkedIn and through PR and through sitting on panels, we'd been talking a good game, right? We'd been telling everybody what we were doing, what we believed was the future and whatnot. And this campaign was the first moment that we showed and proved that what we were building, it works. Mm-hmm. We have a label services business within the group, a team that essentially run the record labels for the artists. Everything from initial kind of delivery of the record. We've got an internal rights management system that is plugged into our distributor, plugged into the DSPs. You know, we've got amazing direct relationships with the decision makers at the DSPs as well. It was the first time that one of our major acts released on their own label through our new team. Yeah. And it was the most successful first week launch for Fisher for any record he's released. Now, he's got records like Take It Off and Atmosphere, you know, big global sort of dance smashes. Yeah. And I'm not saying that the numbers of that record, the lifetime of it up to now, were bigger. Yeah. But in terms of the impact and the awareness and the coverage that we got on the playlisting we got and the features we got, like, it proved that when everyone says, well, no, you need a major for not only their marketing but for their distribution channels as well. Yeah. we're going through the same pipes that they do.
Yeah.
We're talking to the same people that they are, but we're talking to we're talking about dance music. You're not got a product manager or whoever it might be speaking to somebody at the DSP 1 minute they're talking about country music, next rock and roll, R&B or whatever. We delivered an amazing campaign. The music video was a kind of a digital gaming kind of style, but then what we did is a brand partnership with Monster Energy, and then recreated the real life version using the brand partnership with Monster and their big international global channels. We put that out through there as well. That gave it the whole campaign another boost, talking to the brand's channels. I think for me that was my most favourite one of recent times, because it validated everything that we've been talking about, and is a great case study to go to any other artist and go, these stats speak for themselves.
The proof is in the pudding, and that sounds like your pudding.
Indeed.
Okay, so we're getting to the final question now. The Circuit Group has been all over Music Week and music business worldwide, and you seem to be in every other week at the moment. There's these collaborations that you've announced. There's Control Fork, Label Works, Alt Vision. What I want to know kind of finally is, beyond these recent partnerships, is simply what is next for the Circuit Group?
Some of the things I can't say, but we've just launched the UK business. Obviously we launched 23. We've launched Circuit Group in the UK. First partnership was with Control Freak, who we started that conversation nearly a year ago, and October was our first trading month as a joint venture with those guys. Without doubt, the hottest and best roster of talent in the UK, with 4 incredible managers and music professionals who just get it and shared our vision. We think very similar. And off the back of that, we will be expanding the UK business, growing out the label services business. We've got 2 or 3 new artists that we're close to agreeing deals with, so we'll be able to announce those hopefully soon. And then an expansion of our publishing efforts that we launched a publishing company in the US. We'll look to expand that out into the UK as well. So yeah, there's the next few months is going to see a little bit more expansion, and I think a lot more news in terms of music catalogues and what we're doing in that space.
So you're going to continue to be all over Music Week and music business worldwide?
There's a few more stories coming out, yeah. yeah. Our PR firm are great. Shout out to Spin Lab. They do an amazing job, and yeah, we've got another 3 or 4, maybe 5 announcements coming, which are going to come out over some before the end of the year, and then into Q1 there'll be something pretty much every month, I think. So.
Not your face on all of them. Come get sick of seeing it.
Yeah, so I don't want to be the face of the organisation in that way.
Okay, mate. Well, listen. Amazing conversation. I think what the Circuit Group is doing, as I already said it, the one word I think is hugely disruptive, but in a very, very good way. Like I say, I see your co-founders are all over LinkedIn. You guys are talking a good game, but like you said already, it seems like you can walk the walk as well. So listen, I've known you since the ministry days, and you, like I said to you when we met, like you've risen to the top and you seem to be absolutely bossing it. So big up for that, mate, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
Thank you, mate.
Nice
Appreciate
one.
it. Thanks for your time.